Politics and religion, the two things they say to never talk about. Let's talk about them. Hi, Seeker. Religion is the man-made collection of traditions and ceremonies that we humans use in our attempt to understand and communicate with a god or gods, creator, spirits, ancestors, the universe, etc. Faith is what we believe and feel about the existence of a higher power and a spiritual realm. Having a spiritual faith and following a religion are not the same thing, though a person can do both and intertwine them. Faith is more about instinct and emotion, whereas religion is more about logic, rules, and structure. The religion is created to try and help us understand why we have faith, to give us reasons to justify our faith. When we recognize that religion is made by humans, then we can recognize how easily we can tie that religion to more worldly things. On the one hand, a person may argue that all things are sacred and should be tied to our religion. On the other hand, there is a great danger in damaging first the religion and then our personal faith by tying these things to the world. Historically, when politics and religion mingle, the religion is damaged the most. I think this is happening again. So many political conservatives are also the most conservatively religious. This is not happening in just one religion, but rather in a number of them today. This is unfortunate, because then the far-right political dark side of racism, toxic nationalism, financial greed, and various forms of prejudice also becomes seen as aspects of the religion. Selfishness becomes a prominent and very visible part of that religion. As this happens, many in the world begin to see all religions as having selfishness and hate as their foundation. The early history of the Catholic Church and how popes became essentially living kings over all other regional kings should have been a cautionary tale. I can't help but wonder if the emphasis on calling Jesus the King of Kings was a way to promote this idea. The Pope was and is seen by many to be the closest living person to Jesus on earth. In that way, were they implying that the Pope was the living King of Kings? Perhaps. The actions of the Taliban and other Islamic extremist groups should open our eyes too. There are Hindu extremists in India, and of course, we see many Christian extremists making the news today. Even peace-focused Buddhism has extremists that persecute Muslims in the form of the Buddhist power force. It seems that so many of us either don't learn from history or choose to strap on the blinders. Maybe I should back up and ask if religion is even a big deal to that many people around the world. Well, the short answer is yes. Please forgive me for diving into some statistics here. Bear with me. Looking at the world as a whole, based on a 2020 estimate from the CIA World Factbook, 85.4% of humans on Earth follow some kind of religion. The largest religious groups are Christianity at 31.1%, followed by Islam at 24.9%, Hinduism at 15.2%, Buddhism at 6.6%, folk religions at 5.6%, Judaism less than 1%, and other religions at less than 1%. Worldwide, those identifying as unaffiliated, which is a mix of those claiming to be either nothing in particular or agnostic or atheist, is just 15.6%. I'd like to see a better breakdown of those unaffiliated around the globe myself. On this world scale, the number of religious adherents is increasing, in no small part based on fertility rates around the world. Christianity and Islam are expected to reach equal numbers by 2060. People who are Jewish or Hindu are expected to stay about the same, while the number of Buddhists is expected to decline. Another marked decline expectation is in the number of unaffiliated agnostics and atheists, dropping to an estimated 13% by 2060. Now, again, those numbers are around the entire planet and don't necessarily reflect what happens in individual countries. Indeed, in the United States of America, where I live, the trends are a bit different, and instead of growth, we're seeing declines. Still, about 89% of Americans either identify with a religion or no particular religion, or what I would call spiritual but not religious. According to Pew Research from 2015 and 2020, and backed up by Gallup polls in 2017, people in America are leaving traditional religion. Just looking at the USA, in 2007, 78.4% of American adults called themselves Christian. In 2014, that dropped to 70.6%. Their most recent polling in 2020 puts that number at only 63% today. About 6 or 7% of Americans adhere to various other religions. 20% of Americans describe their religion as nothing in particular. 5% as agnostic, meaning they don't disbelieve in a higher power, but aren't sure they believe either. And only 4% of Americans describe themselves as atheist or totally disbelieving in anything spiritual. That number is up a little bit from 2011, when only 2% of those polled saw themselves as atheists. Granted, the reason for these changes are not crystal clear. Yet, something I've witnessed is the growing trend of some religions and religious followers to bind themselves to extreme far-right political ideologies. Becoming like conjoined twins, what happens to one happens to the other. As people politically in the middle and the left see this symbiosis, they are increasingly disgusted as much by the religion as they are by the politics. This is something I've observed personally over time, but it's not just me. Sociologist Ruth Braunstein has researched this phenomenon and found the same links. She found the decrease in those identifying as Christian to directly link to the rise of politics within religious groups, particularly those identifying as evangelical Christian. Braunstein cites this reaction to the politicization of religion as leading some to seek other religious denominations, as well as walking away from all religion in disgust. In summary, many religious groups appear to be moving away from the heart of the faith they profess to follow, and are recreating the religion as a right-wing political movement. They are, intentionally or not, seemingly replacing God with politicians. This is causing the reaction of people, metaphorically and sometimes literally, to say, if this is what it means to be a religious person, then I am not a religious person. If this is what it means to be a Christian, then I want nothing to do with Christians. Yet, we see the number of atheists has not grown as significantly as those who consider themselves spiritual but not religious. I would count myself in those numbers, and maybe you would too. In short, that's why I'm here. I have faith, but that faith has expanded beyond my upbringing and opened my eyes to seek answers all over. I'm an Omnist, one who believes there is truth to be found in all faiths, religions, philosophy, and science too. I'm a seeker. Perhaps you are too. So, what is the lesson to learn from all of this? The things of this world, politics, money, possessions, material things, selfish things, these are anchors. I don't mean anchors as in they keep us grounded and safe. What I mean is, if a person ties themselves to an anchor, and that anchor is dropped in the water, that person goes down with it. If we tie ourselves to these kinds of anchors, we will go to the bottom of the sea with that anchor and drown. And when a religion is tied to the anchor of politics, it goes to the bottom and dies. This is what we are seeing. Every time in history that any religion has been tied to politics or money or any material things of this world, every time the religion has suffered and people have suffered. When our laws go beyond the basics of not harming others, of not taking other people's liberties away, and instead we add purely religious laws, people suffer every time. I will go out on a limb so far as to say that if you have to pass a law to force people to follow a religion or an edict of that religion, then you have no real faith in the teachings of that religion. You're only using it as an excuse to control other people. Additionally, in the judicial world, there is something called precedent. It means that once you allow an example of something, you open the legal door for similar things. In terms of legal systems, if you allow in one purely religious law, you open the door for requiring that laws from other religions be allowed as well. Sometimes this may be okay with you. Other times it may not. As an example, a devout evangelical Christian may support laws banning same-sex marriage. A devout Muslim may agree. Once that Christian law is passed, it opens a precedent for religious laws that may force lawmakers to adopt a far-right Islamic law, perhaps one banning alcohol, or maybe one requiring all women to cover their heads and faces in public for the sake of decency and protecting women. The evangelical Christian would likely be opposed to that law, but the precedent had been set. Yes, this could be an extreme example. Or could it? It's already happening in the state capitol in Little Rock, Arkansas. The state had allowed an installation of a monument to the Jewish and Christian Ten Commandments to be erected on the capitol grounds. In response, the Satanic Temple insisted that they be allowed to erect a statue of Baphomet on the same grounds. They've also done this with displays at Christmas when nativity scenes have been allowed. No matter how much Christians complained about the satanic displays being installed, there was nothing they could do. A legal precedent had been set and had to be followed. So what else could we see? In the USA, we already have laws requiring you to wear clothing in public so that you don't offend other people. This is a decency law dictated by Christian values. There is no practical, safety-based reason to require people to wear clothing, but we're used to it, so we don't complain. In stores, we are used to the signs that say no shirt, no shoes, no service. Another decency law or rule. In Western culture, it's common for men to be shirtless outdoors and while swimming, but they can't be shirtless in a store? Why? There is no practical reason, but we've had the rules for so long, we're used to it. The precedent was set long ago. What will be next? Perhaps we'll go back to laws requiring women to wear long skirts while swimming. Who knows? Law and politics should protect free practice of any religion or faith, so long as its adherents are not taking away the rights of others or forcing their views on others. But religious and faith beliefs should not control the laws and politics themselves. Even today, there are federal lawmakers attempting and state lawmakers succeeding to pass laws that take away the rights of others purely based on religious perspective. As one example, and speaking frankly, no level of government should have a say in who gets married to who, so long as both parties are able to consent to the marriage. Laws protecting children are a different situation entirely, because the law prevents the child from losing their rights. So, have you tied yourself to an anchor? Were you tied to one and have got yourself free now? Are you one of the many people migrating away from organized religion to seek something else? This week, think about things in your life, however big or small, that might be anchors you've tied yourself to. Maybe it's time to reevaluate some things. Until next time, Seeker, be well and be kind. Thank you so much for joining me here today. Before you go, please subscribe to the channel. Then check out the links in the description below. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and most importantly, on Patreon. If you like what I'm doing here and would like me to keep creating, help me out by becoming a supporting patron. You'll find exclusive perks like downloadable podcasts of all the messages, patron-only videos, and some great quarterly merch like stickers, coffee mugs, and shirts too. Finally, please share these posts to help our community of seekers grow. Thanks. See you next time.